Ladies and gentlemen, you were never meant to fit into a mold someone else designed. You were never created to seek validation from people who don't even value their own reflection in the mirror. You were born whole, you were born enough, and I'm here to remind you, loving yourself as you are is not a final destination. It's a powerful decision you make every single day. See, most people have been tricked into believing that they'll be worthy only after they achieve something, after they lose 20 pounds, after they get that job, after they get married, after someone finally tells them you're good enough. But let me tell you something. The moment you believe you need something outside of yourself to feel whole, you've just given away your power. Your identity is not for sale. Your value is not on clearance. And your worth cannot be discounted, no matter what the world says. Let me break it down. You were created with intention. You are not an accident. You are not a random sequence of genetic code. You were designed by divine intelligence, and that alone qualifies you to walk boldly in your truth. But here's the catch. You can't walk boldly in your truth if you keep comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You can't step into greatness while dragging the baggage of self-hate behind you. And yes, let's talk about self-hate, because too many people are dressing it up in expensive clothes, posting it on Instagram and calling it confidence, but deep down they're hiding from the mirror, hiding from silence, hiding from the truth that they don't like themselves. But you, my friend, are different, or at least you're ready to be different. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening. You're tired of the pretending. You're exhausted from the emotional gymnastics of trying to become someone else just to be loved, just to be seen, just to be accepted. Well, what if I told you you could be loved, seen, and accepted by you without changing anything? Let that sink in. You don't have to wait for a permission slip to love yourself. You don't need someone's approval to walk in your power. You don't need a flawless track record, perfect skin, a six-figure income, or a flawless past to look in the mirror and say, I love you. In fact, let's do it now. Say it with me, I love you. Say it again, but this time mean it. It might feel awkward. It might feel unnatural. You might even hear voices in your head saying, that's not true. You don't deserve that. But those voices, they're liars. They're echoes of every limiting belief someone else planted in your mind. And it's time to uproot them. See, the problem isn't that we don't know how to love. The problem is that we've learned how to withhold love from ourselves. We've learned how to punish ourselves for not being enough. We've learned how to talk down to ourselves. And some of us are so used to being emotionally abused by our own thoughts that healthy self-love feels like arrogance. But here's the truth. Loving yourself is not arrogance. It's alignment. It's alignment with the truth that you were created in excellence for excellence. It's alignment with the truth that the same breath that breathed galaxies into existence also breathed life into you. And that's not just poetry, that's purpose. Now, let me get practical for a second. Loving yourself as you are doesn't mean you don't want to grow. It doesn't mean you settle for less. It doesn't mean you stop striving. But it does mean you stop striving from a place of lack. You stop grinding just to feel like you're enough, because you're not grinding to become enough. You're building because you already are. You build from overflow, not from emptiness. You pursue excellence from wholeness, not from insecurity. You seek growth not because you're ashamed of who you are, but because you believe in who you are. That shift changes everything. When you love yourself, you start saying no to things that insult your spirit. You stop tolerating relationships that make you feel small. You stop chasing people who never saw your worth to begin with. You start guarding your peace like a priceless treasure, because that's exactly what it is. And don't misunderstand me. Loving yourself is not just about bubble baths and spa days. It's not about surface-level affirmations or feel-good quotes on your wall. It's about radical ownership. It's about looking at your pain, your past, your patterns, and saying, even with all of this, I still choose me. That's power, because real love isn't blind. Real love sees the mess and chooses to stay. And that's the kind of love you need to have for yourself. Not a love that ignores your flaws, but a love that embraces them. A love that says, you're healing and I'm proud of you. You're not perfect, but you're powerful. You've made mistakes, but you're still worthy. You want to change your life? Start there. Start by looking in the mirror without criticism. Start by speaking to yourself with kindness. Start by forgiving yourself for everything you thought made you unlovable. Some of you are carrying shame like it's your destiny. You've worn it like a second skin, but shame is not your name. Guilt is not your birthright. Self-hate is not your calling. You were created to shine, not to shrink. You were made to rise, not to retreat, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. The moment you decide to love yourself is the moment you begin to live in truth, because truth isn't just about facts, it's about freedom. And self-love is the door to that freedom. Now I know some of you are thinking, but you don't know what I've been through. You're right, I don't, but I know this. The fact that you've been through hell and you're still standing, that's reason enough to celebrate yourself. That's reason enough to love the person who fought through every storm just to be here today. You don't need more time. You don't need more proof. You don't need anyone else to clap for you. You need one thing, a decision. The decision to stop abandoning yourself. The decision to stop apologizing for existing. The decision to stop shrinking your light to make other people comfortable. The decision to stop hustling for your worth. You are already enough. Say it. I am already enough. Say it again until it drowns out every lie you've ever believed, because here's what happens when you really love yourself. You become magnetic. You attract better friends. You attract better opportunities. You attract love that's not based on performance, but on presence. You attract abundance because your mindset is no longer rooted in lack. And most importantly, you stop betraying yourself. You stop bending your values to fit in. You stop pleasing at the cost of your peace. You stop editing yourself to be more palatable. You show up as you, fully, freely, fiercely. Now let me speak to the dreamers, the builders, the visionaries. Yes, you. You've got goals. You've got ambition. You've got a fire in your belly. That's good. But hear me. No goal will ever fill the void of not loving yourself. You could make $1 million and still feel broke inside. You could gain the whole world and still feel lost in your own skin, because success without self-love is just a performance. But when you build from love, you build something that lasts, something that matters, something that heals others just by existing. You become a lighthouse, not because you're perfect, but because you're rooted. You become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because your foundation is finally built on truth. And let me tell you, there's no force more unstoppable than a man or woman who has fallen in love with their own soul. You become a threat to mediocrity, a threat to manipulation, a threat to systems that profit from your insecurity. You stop being a slave to the opinions of others because you've become loyal to yourself. So what's the next step? Practice daily, relentlessly. Speak life over yourself. Look in the mirror every morning and bless your reflection. Not out of vanity, but out of reverence, because the same power that holds the universe together holds you together. You are a walking miracle, a living masterpiece, a divine expression of purpose wrapped in skin. Stop looking for evidence of your worth outside of yourself. Stop auditioning for love. Stop waiting for someone to finally choose you and start choosing yourself. Because when you love yourself as you are, you give other people permission to do the same. You become a living example of what freedom looks like. And that, my friend, is more powerful than any sermon, any speech, any book. That is a revolution, and it starts right now. So stand tall, speak truth. Walk in power, and above all, love yourself, not later, not when you've fixed everything, not when you've earned it. Love yourself as you are, because as you are is already enough. Let's go deeper. Because it's not just about saying the words, it's about rewiring your entire internal system to believe them. It's about deprogramming years, sometimes decades, of internalized rejection, criticism, and comparison. You see, loving yourself as you are isn't a switch you flip, it's a muscle you train, and just like in the gym, you won't feel strong the first time you lift, but that doesn't mean you're not making progress. What if I told you that every time you speak kindly to yourself, you're building strength? Every time you show yourself compassion when you fall short, you're building resilience. Every time you choose not to tear yourself down, you're choosing freedom. And the more you do it, the stronger you become. That's not wishful thinking, that's transformation in motion, but it comes with resistance. You will be tempted to go back to the old patterns, the patterns of self-doubt, self-rejection, and self-neglect. Why? Because they're familiar, and for a lot of people, pain is familiar, and familiar feels safe, even if it's killing them. But familiar doesn't mean right, and safe doesn't mean true. You've got to get uncomfortable to grow. You've got to be willing to stand in front of your past, your pain, and your imperfections and say, "You no longer define me. I'm choosing a new story. That story starts today, not because you've changed everything, but because you've decided to change how you see yourself." And let me be real with you. It won't always feel like progress. Some days you'll feel like you're faking it. Some days the self-love affirmations won't land. Some days the mirror won't reflect what you want to see. But that's not failure. That's the process. Do you stop going to the gym because you don't have abs after one workout? No, you keep going. You trust the process. You keep showing up. And eventually, what felt forced becomes natural. What felt fake becomes real. That's how you rewire a life, and here's the beauty of it. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You don't have to be finished to be full of love. You don't have to be complete to be completely worthy. In fact, it's your willingness to love yourself in the middle of the mess that makes you a masterpiece. It's easy to love yourself when you're winning, when you're getting praise, when everything is going right. But can you love yourself when no one's clapping? Can you love yourself when you've failed, when you've hurt people, when you've made mistakes, when you're not who you thought you'd be by now? That's the test. That's when self-love becomes real. That's when it becomes sacred. You've got to stop tying your worth to your wins, because if your love for yourself goes up and down based on your performance, that's not love, that's a transaction. And love isn't a transaction, it's a covenant. You don't fall in love with yourself because you're flawless. You fall in love with yourself because you finally realize your soul is priceless. And priceless things don't need validation. You don't look at the sun and ask for a resume. You don't demand credentials from the ocean. You don't question the worth of the stars, and yet here you are questioning your own. Why? Because somewhere along the way, someone convinced you that your value had to be earned, that it was conditional, that you had to be perfect, pleasing, productive, or pretty enough to be loved. But that was a lie. Your value is not negotiable, it's not situational, it's not temporary, it's eternal. And if nobody ever told you, let me be the first to say it. You are worthy right now, as you are, not thinner, not richer, not smarter, not more popular, not more successful. Now, in this moment, let me tell you why that matters. Because everything you build, your relationships, your career, your future, is built on the foundation of how you see yourself. If you see yourself as broken, you'll build from fear. If you see yourself as lacking, you'll build from scarcity. If you see yourself as unworthy, you'll sabotage every blessing that comes your way. But when you start seeing yourself as whole, loved, powerful, and complete, everything changes. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you. You stop begging for what you were born to command. You stop playing small just to keep other people comfortable. You walk differently, you speak differently, you live differently, not because the world changed, but because you did. You upgraded your internal system. You installed new beliefs. You chose truth over trauma, power over pity, vision over victimhood, and that choice, that decision to love yourself as you are, is the most revolutionary thing you could ever do. It breaks cycles, it heals bloodlines, it liberates generations, because when one person chooses to love themselves fully, they give others permission to do the same. Yourself, love becomes a ripple effect. A movement, a message. People start to feel safe around you, not because you're perfect, but because you're real, because you've owned your scars, because you've done the work, because you've chosen to show up for yourself when no one else did. And that presence, that energy, that's what the world is starving for. Not more filters, not more masks, not more pretend perfection, but authenticity. And authenticity starts with self-love, real, raw, unshakable self-love. That means you stop apologizing for your truth. You stop shrinking to fit in. You stop explaining away your boundaries. You stop trying to earn your seat at the table and start realizing you are the table. You are the prize, and it's not arrogance to believe that. It's responsibility. Because when you know your worth, you carry yourself with purpose. You stop wasting time in places that don't honor you. You stop giving your energy to people who drain you. You stop saying yes to things that betray your peace. You become selective, not because you're better than others, but because you finally realize you're better than who you used to be. And that's not pride, that's progress, and progress is what we're after. Not perfection, not approval, not applause. Progress toward a version of you that loves themselves fiercely, not in spite of your flaws, but with them. Because they're part of your story, part of your becoming. Every scar you carry tells a story of survival. Every tear you shed was water for the seeds you're growing now. Every time you didn't quit, even when you were tired, even when you were scared, that was an act of self-love. Don't overlook it, don't downplay it, honor it. You've come too far to keep treating yourself like a second-class citizen in your own life. You've been through too much to keep asking for permission to love yourself. You've overcome too many battles to keep living like you're not enough. You are enough. You always were. So today, I challenge you, speak life over yourself. Write a letter to your past self and thank them for surviving. Write a letter to your future self and promise to keep showing up. And in this present moment, breathe deep, smile, and love who you see, because that person, that soul, that heart, that is someone worth loving, someone worth honoring, someone worth fighting for, and the world may not always tell you that. The world may not always see it, but you don't need them to, because you see it now, you feel it now, you know it now. And once you know, you can never unknow. So keep walking, keep building, keep loving. Love yourself when it's easy and especially when it's hard. Love yourself in the winds and in the wilderness. Love yourself when the voice in your head says you're not enough. Remind it that you are. Love yourself when you look in the mirror and don't recognize who you see. Remind yourself that beauty runs deeper than reflection. Love yourself through every transformation, every trial, every triumph. And know this, loving yourself as you are is not just a good idea, it is the foundation of your power, it is the beginning of your freedom, it is the truth that will carry you into everything you were meant to become. And it starts now, as you are. So now, after everything we've walked through, after digging deep into the truth, the pain, the power, and the process, let this be your final takeaway. Loving yourself as you are is not just a feel-good mantra. It's the cornerstone of everything real, everything lasting, and everything meaningful in your life. It's not the end of the journey, but it's the beginning of walking that journey with confidence, with clarity, and with conviction. Because when you love yourself as you are, you stop surviving and start living. You stop doubting and start creating. You stop hiding and start showing up fully, unapologetically, and with boldness. You stop waiting for the world to see you, and you decide to see yourself. Fully, freely, finally, no more shame, no more performing, no more pretending. You are enough, right now, not when you become someone else, not when the world changes, not when everything is perfect. But as you are, broken and beautiful, flawed and favored, scarred and sacred, and when you love yourself like that truly, deeply, completely, you don't just change your life, you change your legacy, so take a deep breath. Stand tall and walk out of here not just inspired, but committed. Committed to showing up for yourself, committed to speaking life into your own soul, committed to giving yourself the love you've always given away so freely to others. You're not waiting anymore, you're not asking anymore, you're not shrinking anymore, you're loving loudly, boldly, fearlessly, because as you are is already everything, and now you know it, so go live it. Thank you.